Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll dive into something that's been guiding people for thousands of years but feels more relevant than ever, the ancient wisdom of the Tao Te Ching. In our world of endless notifications, constant hassle, and information overload, this 2,500-year-old text offers something we're desperately searching for: balance, clarity, and the way to live in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. I'm not talking about some dusty philosophy that belongs in the museum. The principles we are about to explore offer practical guidance for the very real challenges we face today. So let's dive in. The origin of Tao. The concept of Tao, often translated as the way, has a fascinating connection with the Chinese character Xuan, meaning mysterious or profound. Check this out. In ancient oracle bone script, Xuan actually resembles the infinity symbol. This isn't just a cool coincidence. It perfectly captures what the Tao is all about: endless circles, infinite potential, and the interconnection of everything. This visual similarly reflects one of the core Taoist concepts: one produces two, two produces three, the three produces all things. Actually, the three translation is not accurate. It's kind of entanglement, the entanglement of the previous two elements. We see this pattern everywhere, from the intertwining of yin and yang. The yin-yang fish, get this, the double helix structure of DNA. That's a perfect explanation of this infinite symbol and this Xuan. Ancient wisdom mirroring what science is now discovering. The Tao exists beyond form yet manifests through form. It's both empty and full, absent yet present. I know that sounds contradictory, but that's exactly the point. The Tao cannot be fully grasped through logical thinking alone. It requires an intuitive understanding. And this is where things get really interesting for us today. In a culture obsessed with certainty, immediate answers, and black and white thinking, the Tao reminds us that reality is much more fluid and interconnected than we often recognize. That is the duality of everything. The yin and yang, they coexist together. Just like our body and soul, they are also together. It's just like the light and shadow. Everything you can see have something you cannot see. And just like the driver of the car, the soul is the driver of your body. One of the Tao's central teaching is that everything exists through the interplay between the tangible and the intangible. Form and formlessness depend on each other. Think about this way: your body and soul cannot be separated. Physical reality cannot exist without the invisible principle that govern it. This concept appears across different traditions. In Kabbalah, there's a story about a blind man representing the body and a lame man representing the soul. They must work together to get anywhere. Traditional Chinese medicine sees the heart not just as a physical pump, but as the seat of spirit. Oh, consider a more modern example: a car and its driver. The vehicle needs direction, while the driver needs a vehicle to go anywhere. Neither is complete without the other. Take a moment to think about where we think we might be missing this balance in our own life. Are we focusing too much on physical appearance and material success while neglecting our inner development? Or are we perhaps so caught up in abstract ideas that we are not taking concrete action in the world? Actually, we can also take the example of our GUI. We can see the interface of the mobile phone. We know there's a coding animate of this UI interface. So everything you can see must have some invisible force driving it. Here's some profound from the Tao Te Ching: when the world knows beauty as beauty, ugliness arises. So Tao Te Ching is teaching us, when balance is disturbed, what will happen? What does this mean? It suggests that when we become consciously aware of a state, it often signals that natural balance has already been disturbed. It's like physical health. When you are healthy, you rarely notice it. It's only when you get sick that you become aware of your body. The awareness itself indicates something is off. The story of Adam and Eve illustrates this perfectly. Before eating the forbidden fruit, they exist in harmony with creation, completely unaware of their nakedness. Their recognition of good and evil marked the breaking of the original balance. The moment awareness itself becomes a burden rather than a blessing. This disturbed balance is everywhere in our world today. Environmental degradation, social inequality, personal anxiety and depression, our escalating desires pushing systems beyond their natural limits, creating imbalances that ripple throughout our lives and our planet. Recognizing this pattern is actually the first step toward restoration. When we see how our endless wanting creates imbalance, we can begin to cultivate contentment inside. Which brings us to our next principle: the wisdom of non-action wu wei. True non-action means following the way, of Tao. Now, this doesn't mean sitting on your couch doing nothing. Wu Wei, often translated as non-action, actually means action that aligns with natural principles rather than struggling against them. When we force outcomes against their nature, we create resistance and suffering. When we work with inherent patterns, we achieve results with minimal effort. The greatest leaders embody this principle. They lead by example rather than by constant micromanagement. They allow natural process to unfold while providing just enough guidance, like a gardener who knows when to water and when to step back and let growth happen. We recognize this principle in great design too. The best technologies, systems, and organizations function so naturally that we barely notice their operation. Think about it. When was the last time you felt grateful for a door that opened perfectly? The hallmark of excellence is often invisible. Next time you find yourself pushing hard against resistance, pause and ask, is there a way to work with the natural flow here rather than against it? Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step back and reassess rather than push harder. Our spiritual tradition addresses the problem of excessive desire. The Taoism is no exception. The text clearly states that desire are the source of suffering. These desires create attachment and preference, disturbing our natural equilibrium and driving us to prioritize immediate gratification over long-term harmony. In today's world of targeted advertising and social media comparison, our desires are actively manipulated and amplified. These unregulated desires manifest as environmental pollution, ecological imbalance, and personal unhappiness. When we constantly seek more wealth, more status, more possessions, we perpetuate a circle of dissatisfaction that can never be fulfilled. Now, the Taoist solution isn't complete renunciation. You don't need to give away all your possessions and live in a cave. Rather, it's about cultivating contentment and reducing artificial wants. By returning to simpler state of being, we reduce the friction in our lives and restore harmony with both our nature and the broader world. The Tao Te Ching describes the sage as one who teaches without speaking and accomplishes without striving, like the creative force that established the world without possessing it. The true leader influences without imposing and succeeds without claiming credit. This stands in stark contrast to many contemporary notions of leadership that emphasize visible action, forceful personality, and public recognition. The Taoist leader understands that attempting to possess success only drives it away, while allowing success to flow naturally ensures its continuation. Think about the best teachers, managers, or mentors you've had. Chances are they didn't need to constantly assert their authority. Their influence came from who they were, not just what they said or did. That's Taoist leadership in action. Here's one of the Tao's most counterintuitive yet practical insights: the value of apparent emptiness or uselessness. The text points out that the vitality of room lies in its empty space, not its walls. The usefulness of a vessel comes from its hollow interior, not its material substance. This principle extends to human potential as well. Those who don't artificially limit themselves, who maintain an inner openness, often manifest the greatest capacity for growth and adaptation. The person who seems useless by conventional standards may possess exactly the quality needed in unprecedented circumstances. So next time you feel unproductive while taking a walk or staring out the window, remember that apparent uselessness might be exactly what your mind needs to make unexpected connections and see solutions you'd miss while busy being productive. When the great Tao is abundant, notions of benevolence and righteousness arise. This proactive observation suggests that formalized moral codes emerged, or laws emerged, as compensatory mechanism when society loses connection with its deeper ethical foundation. Rules and regulations multiply precisely when natural harmony diminishes. This ethical system attempts to repair what's already broken, like gluing together shattered pottery. Well, better than complete moral collapse, they represent stopgap measures rather than true solutions. The insight here isn't that we should abandon ethic, far from it. Rather, it's about recognizing that true ethic behavior flows naturally when we are connected to our deeper nature and to each other. The multiplication of rules often signals that something fundamental has been lost. A tranquil mind is essential to cultivation and the ultimate secret of nourishing life. Across traditional, from Taoism to Buddhism to contemplative Christianity, the quiet mind emerges as a cornerstone of spiritual practice and physical well-being. The sage can hear what others cannot, because their inner stillness allows them to perceive subtle realities lost in noise. This tranquility isn't passive, but rather represents the highest form of alertness, attention undistracted by internal commentary or emotional reactivity. Modern neuroscience increasingly confirms this ancient wisdom, demonstrating how meditation and mindfulness practices reduce stress, improve cognitive function, and support overall health. What ancient Taoists intuited through observation, we now verify through controlled studies. Even 5 minutes of conscious breathing or sitting stillness each day can begin to cultivate this tranquil mind. Start small, be consistent, and notice how it affects your clarity and presence throughout the day. The Tao of Heaven shows no favoritism, yet constantly supports those who follow natural principles. This principle describes the impartial yet responsive nature of reality itself. Natural laws operate without regard for human preferences, yet those who align with these laws inevitably benefit. This isn't supernatural favoritism, but rather the predictable outcome of alignment versus resistance. Someone who respects gravity will naturally fare better than someone who denies it. Similarly, those who respect social, psychological, and ecological principles will naturally experience more favorable outcomes. The backlash from violating natural principle isn't punishment but consequence, the ultimate rebalancing of system pushed beyond their natural parameters. This principle reminds us to work with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Self-knowledge is the highest wisdom. Understanding others is intelligence. Understanding yourself is true wisdom. While knowledge of external realities has obvious utility, the Tao Te Ching places special emphasis on self-knowledge as a foundation of genuine wisdom. This begins with acknowledging one's limitations. Recognizing areas of ignorance creates space for new understanding. The genuinely wise person maintains intellectual humility, remaining perpetually open to deeper insights precisely because they don't claim to possess complete knowledge. I found that the moment of greatest growth in my own life have come not from thinking I had all the answers, but from admitting what I didn't know. Self-knowledge isn't self-criticism, it's honest assessment that creates the foundation for genuine growth. Conquering others requires force. Conquering yourself requires strength. Many traditions distinguish between external power and internal mastery, but the Tao Te Ching makes this distinction particularly clear. Physical domination or social control represents a lower form of power, requiring constant reinforcement and creating inevitable resistance. True strength manifests through self-mastery, the ability to regulate one's desires, emotions, and reactions rather than being controlled by them. This internal discipline generates sustainable power that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Unlike physical force, which diminishes with age or changing circumstances, this inner strength can grow throughout a lifetime, becoming more rather than less powerful with experience and practice. That's why we often find the greatest wisdom in elders who have mastered themselves. All these insights point toward a single conclusion. Human flourishing depends on recognizing and aligning with fundamental patterns rather than imposing artificial systems that violate them. This doesn't mean primitive regression, but rather sophisticated simplicity. The recognition that complexity often masks rather than resolves fundamental problems. By returning to basic principle and natural patterns, we discover solutions that work with rather than against the inherent nature of reality. In a world of increasing complexity, accelerating change, and mounting challenges, this ancient wisdom offers not just philosophical comfort but practical guidance. The Tao's emphasis on balance, non-interference, and alignment with natural principles provides a framework for addressing everything from environmental issues to personal wellness to social harmony. The greatest value of the Tao Te Ching may be its suggestion that our most pressing problems don't require ever more elaborate solutions, but rather a return to fundamental wisdom, a recognition that the path forward may involve stepping back to recognize patterns we've forgotten in our rush towards progress. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how these ancient principles might apply to challenges you're facing in your own life. Drop a comment below and let's continue this conversation. If you found value in today's exploration, please consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone who might benefit from these timeless insights. Until next time, may you find balance, clarity, and flow in your own journey.